Welcome back to Weedy TV. We're firmly into springtime here in New Zealand, and with that, some great spearfishing can be had. In this video, we're going to run through some of my favourite type of spearfishing. You can find fish in all sorts of different environments in New Zealand, but one of my favourite places to hunt is on the Reef Edge, or as we refer to it in New Zealand, a weed edge, as we have lots of kelp and seaweed. This can very much be replicable all throughout the world, as when you get the reef changing to the sand, you often get build-up of bait and other predatory species. Early to late spring, you tend to get large numbers of these fish turning up on these weed edges. As you can see in this clip, it's a big school of nice eating trevally. There's some key things you're looking for when hunting a reef edge or a weed edge. First up is current. You want to make sure there's lots of tidal flow or current moving down your weed edge. This is so important for fish to congregate, and with no current there's less likely to be fish there. It didn't take long and Sam stumbled across one of our most sought after fish while spearfishing, a giant boarfish. Once we come into the warmer months, these become more prolific in the shallows and really do tend to like hanging out on weed edges. They feed on large worms in the sand and often pair up at this time of year. Second thing you're looking for when hunting on a weed edge or a reef edge, and that's lots of variation in the bottom. We can see there's plenty of current here, and there's also lots of bits of reef. This tends to be great places to find kingfish, as all these bits of reef will hold sections of bait, and with that come the kingfish. With this broken reef, I want to try and find some prominent rocks. And although not a target species, those silver drummer in the background are such a key fish to find when out deeper. With those fish being here, I know that I'm near some big reef, as they often like to hang out in caves and holes. They don't tend to like being right out in the open without a home close by. I can see in the distance there's a nice high rock, and that's likely to be a hot spot. I yell out to Dan to tell him that I think I've found a nice big rock, so he heads down for inspection. Straight away this big school of kingfish comes in. He wastes no time lighting up on a nice one. And would you believe it, manages to get two in one shot with his 100cm Weedy Reef Pro spear gun. This was obviously not the desired result and turns into a little bit of chaos. These fish are fighting against each other. These were both decent sized kingfish, with the bigger one going around 20 kilos and the smaller one being around 12 or 13. In these situations, we want to get these kingfish into our wetty float boat ASAP, as in these sort of areas you're very likely to see bronze whaler sharks.
They get my spirit in case the bronzy comes.
Once we'd sorted out that kingfish mess and got them both into our wetty float boat, it was my turn to have a dive on the reef. Places like this, you never know what you might see. It's a great spot for John Dory, Boarfish, Trevally, Kingfish, and even snapper. Notice when I'm diving this piece of reef, I want to be on the up current side when I land there. This is a great looking spot as it's a small bit of reef in an oasis of sand. I planted a good shot on this 20+ kilo kingfish. And now I'm going to try get it to the surface and dispatch it as fast as possible. As it's so important with kingfish in New Zealand now, you want to get them out of the water and dispatch them before you have shark problems. Weed edges and reef edges in New Zealand tend to be the most productive, anywhere from sort of 10 to 30 metres. We're diving in around about 20 metres of water, which is often a really good sort of depth to find lots of fish on weed edges. Satisfied with more than enough fish, it's time to move spot.
Yeah, what are you hiding, boy? Yeah, go. Just try to get the blow.
With no need to get more fish, I headed in shallows to look for some crayfish. The same rule can be applied with fish, with crayfish, as you try and find a reef edge, and often that's where the crayfish will move from the sand into the reef. Again, looking for prominent rocks on a flat bottom. That tends to be the most likely place to find crayfish. You do not need to go far offshore to find really productive weed edges or reef edges. Some of the best weed edge diving is right out on the coastline. Often you'll find that they're most productive either right on the coastline or tucked on the inside of islands, where they're often sheltered from big rolling swell. Only a week later, I headed back out onto the coast and hoped to find some nice fish on the edges. Dan's first up with some nice trevally on the coast again. Although on the surface the water looked quite dirty, once we punched through that dirt layer and got to the bottom, there was good visibility and an incredible abundance of bait and fish. This is a nice looking spot, as you have good looking boulders that stop right on the sand edge, as well as the sand being full of life. You don't want your sand to be too white and clean. With all this bait around, there's going to have to be some good fish. This nice trevally comes in, and I'm trying not to be too erratic with my movements. Key hunting techniques when diving on a reef edge is you want to be as flat to the bottom as possible. Make yourself very low profile and not too intimidating for fish to approach you. Some of the bigger trevally you'll encounter will be right up on the coast, as they tend to like hanging around harbours or weed edges. It was only a matter of time with all this bait before I saw some kingfish. And notice the bait's reaction as soon as the kingfish enters the fray. It's so important to get a good shot on kingfish and subdue them quickly so that you don't end up with shark issues. Diving deeper weed edges can be really good progression for your breath hold and your hunting technique. And it's also incredibly enjoyable as you see large schools of fish like this at times. We're back diving with Dan as he's down on this good looking weed edge with lots of current. He's heading along here looking for a change in the edge, and as soon as he finds it, there's a couple of really nice boarfish parked up. Notice how this is a male and female pair, and something they often do this time of year. One of our favourite fish to hunt on weed edges is the John Dory. Certainly one of the best eating fish in the ocean. They often frequent these areas as there's lots of bait fish for them to feed on, and they'll come out off the sand. Dan catches this one trying to hunt the smaller fish. So next time you're out, try and find yourself a nice reef edge or weed edge with lots of current, nice big rocks, and in depths anywhere from sort of 10 to 30 metres, you'll tend to have the most success.